On this discrimination, because you said the sorts of people that drive cabs are the sorts of men that make you feel uncomfortable.
I said may.
Yeah, but you've said you don't want to ride a cab as a result of it. Now, I'm wondering why that's not discrimination.
Well, I'll tell you why. As a teenager, I did get cabs, and also my friends did, and more than a few of them had really scary experiences.
Okay, I'm going to quote to you a sentence. I want you to tell me how this sentence is not discriminatory. When I was young, a black man robbed me, and therefore I don't like being in a closed space with black men because I've had a bad experience when I was young. How is that not a discriminatory sentiment to hold?
Well, I'm not saying that.
No, I know, you're saying about men, which is the same thing, because it's an immutable characteristic, whether it's race or somebody's sex. So I'm asking you again, how is it not discriminatory to say that I had a few bad experiences when I was young, and therefore I don't trust any taxi driver, male?
I think what you're missing here is it's somebody's personal experience. And if you've ever been attacked, have you ever been attacked? Many
times, Lauren, but that's not the question I'm asking you. I'm asking you about personal experience. If I had been robbed when I was young by a black man, which, by the way, I never have. I've been robbed by other people. If I had been robbed by a black man when I was young, and then came to the age that you and I are now, and said, I don't feel comfortable because of your quote, my personal experience when I was young with a black man robbing me, so I don't want to be in any private space with a black man. How is that any different to what you're saying about all male car drivers?
Because, you see, you're taking it from the wrong perspective, and that's the point I'm making.
What's the wrong perspective?
The perspective is that a woman or anyone should have a choice if they want to get a cab that's driven by another woman.
So I was robbed, again, back to my hypothetical example, I was robbed by a black man when I was young, so I want to be able to choose not to have a black cab driver. What's wrong with that?
That's their personal choice.
Yeah, so if I want to choose not to have a black cab driver, that's okay, yeah?
If that's their choice, that's their choice.
You see what you've just done there, Lauren? The problem is that you've just endorsed racism.
I don't think so. I'm saying it's somebody's choice. It's not what I'm doing.
No, but you've just endorsed. You've just positively endorsed somebody choosing to deliberately not get in a car if the cab driver's black, just because you want to do that if the cab driver's male, and you can't see how that's adopting a discriminatory attitude.
I think what you're missing here is people's personal experiences and fears.
Yeah. And that's what racism is built on.
Let me finish.
No. Racism is built on personal prejudices and fears. That's its very definition. So I'm not gonna let you finish because you're saying I'm missing it when that's exactly my point, Lauren. Racism and prejudice is built on personal fears. I'm not missing it. I'm asking you to address it.
It isn't always. There are many racists in this country who've never, ever had a negative experience with somebody from
That doesn't mean they don't fear a negative experience, Lauren. That's precisely what racism is.
I'm talking about based on reality, not based on
so the reality you're talking about is that every male cab driver deserves the suspicion that you cast over them.
Again, you're twisting my words and you're missing my point. It's a woman's choice to be able to
just like it's
she travels in a car with.
That's right, just like it's a white man's choice not to get in a car with a black man.
It doesn't mean I endorse that.
You just did. You just said it's their choice as well.
You're twisting it. You're very clever at twisting it.
No, I'm actually, unfortunately, I'm putting some uncomfortable home truths your way about the nature of discrimination. Let's get something straight. It's a statistically known fact that societies that segregate the sexes have more sexual harassment than societies that don't. Because you fetishize the other gender. You fetishize sex. And so, if you look to countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan, where the social norms are that the genders don't mix, do you think you've got rid of sexual harassment in those societies? Or do you think in Saudi Arabia, when they see an ankle, they get titillated? And so, where are we coming from? Look to Afghanistan and the Taliban. Do you think that by covering up the entire woman, right, Has that solved the problem of gender discrimination and sexual crimes in Afghanistan? Do you really think that that's the solution? What are we doing here? We're reverting back to our Victorian age prudishness. There's a serious danger of overcorrection here. And I want to make this very clear, right? Just so we can remember, because these ideas coming from the left, by the way, this is TFL, but it's generally from the left, that the solution to the sexual harassment problem is gender segregation. Well, isn't it the left that was meant to have rebelled against all of this in the first place? So let me remind you what we rebelled against in the Victorian era. Progressives were the ones who made the strong and loud case, and correctly so, that sex isn't bad, people. Sexual harassment is bad. Nudity isn't bad. Promiscuity isn't bad. Gender fluidity isn't bad. Sexuality and sexual freedom isn't bad. What is bad is prudishness, judgmentalism, censorship, and moralising over people's sexual choices. Once you've got that clear, you understand that the problem isn't in a woman who chooses to be a stripper and take her clothes off for a living, or in a man who chooses to take his clothes off for a living, gay or straight. The problem is in the idiot that decides that that's an invitation to rape them. Now, you can't have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways. On the one hand, if we claim, as we rightly do, that how a woman dresses is irrelevant to her giving you consent to touch her, and that's a perfectly sound argument, right? So a woman wearing a miniskirt is not asking for you to touch her. You can't then argue that there's something objectifying in being a stripper. If you've just argued that it doesn't matter how you dress, it's not a reason to touch someone. So even at the President's Club, right, if there were cabaret dancers on the stage, I don't know, I wasn't there. That's not the problem. The problem isn't the cabaret dancers. Don't try and shut down the Windmill Club and say, oh, there's a problem there because it's objectifying women because there's cabaret dancers. Yet at the same time, you're saying women wearing miniskirts aren't inviting to be touched and therefore women should be able to dress how they want. You can't have it both ways. Let's decide once and for all. Choice is the parameter here, right? And women can dress how they want, behave how they want in a free society and mix with men. And the solution is men simply don't touch them without their permission. That's the solution. Not to say, right, we're going to go back to the Victorian age and segregate the genders as a way to protect women from sexual harassment. That doesn't protect anything.